Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, so subscribe and hit that bell icon right now. So tonight I've got a movie review for you of the Fantastic Four. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, please do not watch this video if you don't like spoilers, because I am going to spoil the plot for you. And this channel is all about asexual lifestyle and entertainment, as well as education and information. So if you like any of those type of things, do subscribe and hit the bell icon. So yes, Fantastic Four. So this movie is the new Fantastic Four. It's called First Steps, and I have interesting things to say about this. So this particular movie was not my favorite of Marvel movies. So I am sad to say that I was actually disappointed with this movie. Now, hear me out as to why that is, right? So there is some good special effects in it, but I thought that the storyline was quite slow. So it's set in the past and it's set on Earth, basically. And it's Earth in 826. So in Wikipedia it says plot on Earth 826 in 1964. I don't really get that. I mean, why is it Earth 826 in 1964? But I'm not very good with maths or dates or anything like that. But anyway, so that's a bit by the by. But it's set basically in a really old-fashioned era. Now, I personally am very young. I like to watch young stuff. So the fact they've got it set in a very old era was quite weird for me to watch. But the whole, obviously, trailer is geared towards being very, very kind of retro, 60s, 70s type vibe. And so I do understand that the trailer was reflective of the movie itself. So it's set back in time and it's called First Steps, I'm assuming, because it's like the beginning of the new Fantastic Four series. And so I was not that impressed with the storyline, if I'm honest. I thought it was very, very simplistic. It kind of been in part done before, and I wanted to see something different, if I'm honest. But the characters, they did gel together, which I was quite surprised about. But I felt that the story is very long drawn out. There wasn't as much action as I had anticipated, and I felt the plot was very, very simple. So basically, the Fantastic Four have there's a show done about them within the film. So it's like a bit like a show within a show, right? And they show the Fantastic Four and they show they've been like superheroes, I think, at that time for about 4 years. And they're celebrating on this show the Fantastic Four and said they were astronauts. They went up into space and then they came back with these superhero powers. And so that sets the scene for them. And they're supposed to be celebrating the Fantastic Four. And you see them live in this home together. I love the robot they had. They've got a robot in this movie because I love robots. And so that was like a family robot, which did cooking and all types of stuff. So I really like that. I like the gadgets in their home. And so I did like that type of thing within the movie. I did think that Sue Storm goes very well with Mr. Fantastic. She's married to him in this one. And at the beginning of the movie, they show that she is pregnant and expecting the child. Throughout the movie, Mr. Fantastic proceeds to find out if his wife, Sue Storm, the baby she's carrying, if it's got special powers. And he keeps doing tests on the baby inside her. Whoops, sorry. Didn't mean to knock the screen there. And so you see him, like, he set up this invention and he's doing this these tests on her, which I felt was a bit intrusive on her. It's a bit like using her as a guinea pig, but I guess they're kind of worried about if their baby will have superpowers. But I think if they have faith in each other, then why are they so worried about whether it's got superpowers or not? They kind of want it to not have superpowers. I get the feeling throughout the majority of the film. But anyway, so in terms of looks, I'm personally, if you're a movie viewer and you're into aesthetics, you're asexual person that's into aesthetic attraction. I personally am not into facial hair, so I didn't like the fat man. Mr. Fantastic had facial hair in this with a mustache. I didn't personally like that about him. I preferred the Human Torch, the guy who was better looking, the younger guy with the Human Torch. I think Mr. Fantastic would look better without mustache. I didn't really like that about him, but then I'm not really a fan of facial hair. But I don't think it made him look older, and I just didn't really like it. But anyway, that's just like a minor thing, really. But I thought he went well with Sue Storm. And I like the fact that they did seem like good together in the actual movie. So I felt like that was a good bond, and that was pleasant to watch. So the story I felt was very, very, very simplistic. So like I said, they've come together, they're celebrating the Fantastic Four, and they're saying how wonderful they are. Then Sue's expecting a baby. Then the whole point of the movie is the Silver Surfer comes down from whatever planet, and they're like saying, "Oh, are you the protectors of this planet Earth?" And they're like, "Yeah." And the Silver Surfer's like, "Your planet is marked for death," right? Which we saw in the trailer. So it's not that much of a surprise. It's kind of like expected. And obviously, I've seen the other Fantastic Four movies. I've seen the Silver Surfer before, so it wasn't a new character. It's a character I was familiar with. You could argue that maybe they've done this one slightly different, and the reasoning behind it, of how she came to be the Silver Surfer. Johnny, the Human Torch, thinks she's really sexy, and so that's partway into the movie. He's saying there's a sexy villain, basically, that he's got to try and kill. Which he doesn't do. But anyway, and then he's trying to understand her. So there's like meant to be some kind of attraction between him and her, well, particularly from his end. But in a nutshell, they go out on an astronaut's journey again, and Sue Storm is pregnant, and her baby's quite, advanced. It's quite, it's into like towards like a longer term pregnancy by the time she goes up, and it's a first person who's been up in space in her condition. And so they go up in the spaceship, and they're going to find out, what's happening with the Silver Surfer. And they come across this planet or this planet being eaten by something called Galacticus, which basically consumes planets. He feeds himself on planets and people, basically. And throughout the storyline, I'm going to keep spoiling it. So if you haven't seen the movie, don't watch this video if you don't like spoilers. Basically, they try and fight Galacticus, and it doesn't work, and he likes to devour them. They have a terrible time trying to get away from this person. Johnny is trying to understand the Silver Surfer, and she speaks this language, and it's like, what does it mean? And she's like, it's a blessing. And so anyway, they go back to planet Earth, and they go empty-handed, as in they haven't defeated Galacticus. Silver Surfer is still out there, although they take a detour into a black hole. As far as I understand, it was a black hole, and that basically freezes the Silver Surfer in time for a month. So the Silver Surfer can't come to chase them at that point in time for Galacticus, because she's kind of stuck. So Galacticus made it plain and simple and clear to Sue Storm and the Fantastic Four that Galacticus wants the baby, because Galacticus says the baby has superpowers, and it has enough power to be able to take his position and feed off planets and feed all that hunger. It was a bit weird how Galacticus would give it a role for the baby that's not even born yet, and the baby's going to be all powerful and consuming and eat planets and stuff, which is basically saying the baby's got superpowers, more powerful than him, and it's going to consume planets. It's going to be evil type thing, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't be very good with it. So what happens is Galacticus on the way to on the way to the Silver Surfer being frozen, the Silver Surfer's on the tail of the ship that they come back to Earth on, where Sue's very far pregnant, but not far enough, and then that it's going to happen usually that minute, but Galacticus tries to send the Silver Surfer in to grab the baby out of her, and that induces the birth, from the pregnancy. So before they basically freeze in time the Silver Surfer, they they have the baby coming out. I went to the toilet in that part because I can't stand pregnancy stuff. I know loads of people are different to me, but I get very pregnancy repulsed. I really didn't want to watch Sue giving birth. And so I went in the toilet in the cinema and waited till it finished, basically. And then the baby had been delivered. And I much prefer being in the toilet, believe me. So that bit was done. She came back with a baby, but then the Fantastic Four have to tell the people that they didn't defeat Galacticus. They didn't save the planet. The planet could still be in danger. Planet Earth could still be in danger. And they admitted that Galacticus wanted a child. And then they basically said that if Galacticus takes the child, then, you know, they could save all the people, the billions of people on the planet Earth. But they weren't going to do that because they weren't going to sacrifice their child. So then people begin to hate them. They have all these hate campaigns against the Fantastic Four. And so the Fantastic Four feel they can't go out their own home anymore. And then eventually Sue comes out and holds the baby and says, this is a baby. And there's all this very inspirational, motivational speech about how you wouldn't give your own child up, would you? And, you know, tells all the story about her birth and difficult upbringing, all this type of thing, to really connect with the people. And in the end, what happens is Sue Storm and Mr. Fantastic fight because they've got to basically kill Galacticus, but the only way they can do it, or at least catch him, and the only way they can do it in the end is by using the baby as bait. So Sue Storm has a disagreement with Mr. Fantastic because Mr. Fantastic is all about calculations, and he can't see a way that they can get Galacticus and kill him without the use of the baby. And she knows this about him, but he doesn't like to say, but she gets it out of him. And he says, I've got to think about all things, all terrible things, every possibility. And she's like, I know what you're thinking, but he said he won't do that. But anyway, in the end, she says there's only one thing for it. He wants the baby. That's the only way we're going to get into Earth and make him come to us so we can capture him. So they want to zap the whole world at one point. They want to do teleportation. So they transport the planet Earth to some other place, right, where Galacticus won't find them and consume, or at least not for a long, long time. And they set up all these systems where the Earth can like literally transport itself, but they've got to have the world's people in unison, basically, from different countries. So Sue Storm rallies around and makes calls to different countries, and this is in very simplistic terms, and gets everyone on side so they able to cut the power, to conserve power enough to do this thing. So they get all these transmitters to transmit the whole world. They get all these set up throughout the throughout the Earth. We're talking about the world as in Earth, not as in other planets. So I should just keep referring to Earth, right? Sorry. So they get all these systems set up throughout Earth, or through the part that they're in Earth. I don't really understand if it's the whole Earth. I think it's meant to be for the whole Earth. And anyway, what happens is the Silver Surfer then gets released. She comes back and destroys them all apart from one teleportation device. So that's when Sue Storm decides with her husband and basically says to her husband, we've got to use a baby as bait because that's the only thing that Galacticus will come down for, is a baby. So they want to get the baby, put it in the middle of this teletransportation system, and then get Galacticus to come in the middle and zap Galacticus somewhere else where they've made this special device for the baby to be in. So it's meant to be protected. So Johnny, the Galacticus comes, Johnny goes to take the baby away, swaps it for just a fake pod with no baby in it. And Galacticus is basically going to take the next step to go in this teleportation device, which they need him to take in order for him to go into this like black hole place in the teleportation device. But he doesn't do it. He senses something's wrong, realizes the baby's not in there because he's got this extra sensory stuff going on, finds the baby's gone back to the apartment, then goes after the baby. Then Sue goes after the Galacticus to try and stop it getting to the baby at home. And it just goes on like this. Till eventually the Silver Surfer comes and bops Galacticus into the black hole themselves, right? Even when she's destroyed the rest of the stuff. This is basically how it ends. So I've told you the whole plot, but I was very disappointed. I thought this was a very boring plot, really. I thought it's not that interesting. The most interesting bit really was the credits at the end, right? Which most people don't watch. There was two bits on at the end, as far as I remember. But the one bit that was really important is you see the baby So I always watch the credits. I always tell people watch the credits, especially on Marvel. So you see the baby at the end 4 years later, and it's like talking to someone in the room, and then basically you see the mask come off, which is Doctor Doom's mask, and this hood. So you don't see the face of Doctor Doom, you just see the hood, and you see the mask come off, and the baby's like looking at it. And the mother comes in, Sue Storm's like, what are you looking at? And you can tell it's Doctor Doom. And it says the Fantastic Four will return in Doomsday, right? So I've told you the whole plot. The reason I've told you this is because I thought it was a very simplistic, boring plot, really. There's not much action in it. I mean, it didn't take a genius to come up with the fact that there's 4 Fantastic Fours. They're celebrating their achievements. Sue gets pregnant. It's got special powers. It's got an alien being that likes to consume planets, but it prefers to have the baby because it knows the baby is all consuming, all powerful. And so therefore it can take the responsibility of munching through the planets, and it can free itself somehow, and gets the Silver Surfer to actually help them out of that situation. You know, I thought it was very, very basic stuff. I didn't think it was that exciting plot. And I know usually I recommend Marvel. I still think it's okay to go and watch it, but it's not something I'd rave about this movie, which is probably going to be very different to a lot of people's. But I've watched the other Fantastic Four movies, and I actually found them better, really, overall. I thought, you know, that their characters gelled probably better together, and I found them more interesting. I do think Sue Storm's really good in this. The person who plays Sue Storm, I thought she was the one that kind of held the Fantastic Four together in this movie the most. She's one you can relate to most, you know, most emotionally, if you like. I did think the characters gelled together, but I just don't know. I just found it a bit boring, to be honest. There wasn't enough action for me. It was very slow going in parts. And one of the best scenes as well in the movie is the beginning, where they're showing what's happened in terms of action in previous. It's meant to be like previously, looking back at their 4 years and how they fought different aliens and fought different things to actually save the planet in past. And I thought that was quite interesting, because it was like boom, action, little different snips of fights and stuff like that. That was really good. That kind of draws you in, and then you're left like thinking what's going on, where they're just sat at home like eating cereal, making little jokes and stuff like that. It's like, this is just so boring. I think it's because they're trying to do the backstory to the, you know, the whole Fantastic Four being in Doomsday and like, you know, the plot going forward. So I think it's worth watching for understanding what's going on in this movie to see the rest of the movies. But personally, I just thought it was a bit boring. I thought it was a bit boring. I thought the storyline could have been a lot better. I thought it was too simplistic storyline. And, you know, I wasn't that impressed with it compared to a lot of Marvel movies. I'm like, there wasn't much action. I liked watching it. You know, I'm glad I watched it. You know, I still think if you're a Marvel fan, you'll still like it, but it wasn't that impressive compared to other Marvel movies that I've seen. That's what I'm trying to say. And I thought the storyline was just very, very, very basic. You know, Silver Surfer works for a being that consumes planets, and Sue Storm's pregnant, and this thing wants a baby. You know, because the baby's all mighty and powerful, which Mr. Fantastic didn't realize at the time, and he kept doing all these tests on the baby. You know, so it's just setting up for Doomsday. I think. I don't really think it was, you know, that brilliant a storyline in and of itself. I know it seems to have quite a lot of good reviews, but I personally didn't think it was that special compared to other stuff. Right? I don't like pregnancy anyway, so that didn't really help. You know, and I'm like, oh, I like the fact they're already married, Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm. I like that bit about the movie. I thought that was really good, that they were already married and they were having like kissing in the beginning, which as a romantic asexual, I like kissing. So I'm like, oh, good. They've got like kind of the kissing and the romance going on in the beginning. So that fed my romantic hyper kisser nature appetite for seeing that stuff on the screen, if you know what I mean. I kind of liked that bit. And like I said, the beginning bits of the action were good. But other than that, I liked it, but I wasn't enthusiastic about it like I am some other movies. I think it's worth a watch, but, you know, don't expect to be thinking, my God, there's so much action. It's amazing. It's incredible. Like, there was good special effects, but it's like not better than what I've already seen, if you know what I mean. Those buildings coming down and things are happening like that. Galacticus, you could have said, is good, but, you know, it reminded me a bit of Jason and the Argonauts, which my parents watched. You know what I mean? It's quite old, that type of thing. You know, the whole setup of Galacticus and the iron, you know, it looked like an Iron Man, basically, like a, you know, something from Jason and the Argonauts, which is a very old movie. And so I kind of felt it was quite old-fashioned, which it obviously was meant to be. I liked the gadgets. I did love the robot. Like I said, I really loved the robot a lot and the gadgets, but I just felt that it wasn't that great. And so, yeah, if you want to watch it, if you like Marvel, I recommend watching, but I just say keep your expectation levels lower, probably, than some of the really good action-packed Marvel movies. Do you know what I mean? But don't forget to watch the credits because they are very important, like I said. You know, I actually think one of the credits, like I mentioned, was the best, really, the thing of the whole movie. I'm like, all right, okay. That's why they've done it. So, yeah, if you like superhero movies, you might love my Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook. This is available on Amazon. It's a superhero-style autobiographical book, and it tells you how to reduce pain in up to 25 aspects of your life. So I'd highly recommend getting this. Even if you don't have fibromyalgia, it's a really interesting read. It is autobiographical, so it's like my life story. It's personal development book in disguise, really. And it's got loads and loads of interesting chapters, which are told in superhero styles. And there's my superhero costume, Ace Fiber Girl at the end. So it's worth a read if you want to have less pain, more energy, and feel happier in your life in general. And still works this day. So grab a copy of that on Amazon or any good bookshop. And I'll see you soon in the next video live stream. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like it. I'd love to know what you thought of the movie. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think of Fantastic Four? What did you think of the acting in it? What do you think of the special effects? What do you think of the robot and the gadgets? And what did you think overall? Did you like it or not? Let me know. Share in the comments below, and I'll see you soon in the next video live stream. Lots of love, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and thumbs up if you like this video. Take care. Bye.